Hello, and welcome to part 2 of episode 2 of the Where Have You Been podcast. My name is Bill Ream. We are continuing today with my friend Derek, and he has got some great stories to tell of different adventures he's had while filming things in the TV and movie industry. And I think it's time that we should just go ahead and continue. So I hope you have a great time. It's a great episode. Just enjoy this, and without further ado, once again, here is my friend Derek. It's the Where Have You Been podcast. Thank you for listening.
Yeah,
and I don't know if I'm saving any. I don't like, not that I'm saving the best for last or anything like that. I don't know that, but the furthest away you've been seems to be Australia.
That was the furthest, yeah.
And I know that you were there to film Aquaman. Tell us about
8 months.
That. I was going to say you were there for a long time.
Yeah, there for 8 months, roughly 7 to 8 months. And, but I was there for work, so I don't have as many cool, I went out and to, Sydney and all this kind of, someone offered me to go to New Zealand, and I really wanted to go, but I was on call. So I couldn't. And then it turns out no one called me, so then I was really mad that I didn't go. So if anybody's out there that's working and you get a chance to do those things and you are on call, just do it anyway, because you'll be very disappointed if you don't. But
my daughter lives in New Zealand now, so I'll have an excuse to go visit her and see it, and I'll send you pictures.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep.
I really wanted to go, and but I was worried that work was going to call, and I was really trying to impress at that time because I was really just getting, this was like the first giant movie I was working on. But what was really neat about Australia is when I landed, I mean, literally 2 hours after I landed, I was petting a kangaroo, which, again, I just never thought I'd ever do. Just seeing them, and they're huge. And then, and it was a park, so they're pretty used to people. And you just go over and, you're just sitting there petting them. And when my family came out to visit, my wife and son, we'd go and we were taking selfies next to these guys as they were sleeping on the ground and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun, but I tried to find as many parks as I could to go and check out, because you would just run into some crazy animals. That's the one thing about out there. Everything out there wants to kill you, but it's fascinating.
They just want to defend themselves, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But when you see a spider the size of your head, you just freak out a little bit, I don't know if it's poisonous. I don't want to know. I just see it and you lose your mind, and it's everything out there just seems to be huge. I was on set one day and I was walking over to Crafty, which is where you get your food, or some food, snack food. And an iguana ran through, and it was, it's huge. This thing just ran through. It's 4 or 5 feet long. It's just this massive lizard, and it ran right into the tent with all the chairs and tables, and everybody was screaming because most of us were from America. And, and this huge thing was just running across. It was, I was running behind it. I just wanted to see it, and it was just terrified running away, and that's all it was doing. But still, they were just massive. And the Aussies out there, they're just like, oh yeah, it happens all the time, and and then you got the birds. There's a bird out there. I can never remember its name, but it's black and white, and it basically looks like a large crow. And, God, what is its name? Magpie, I think. And
okay. Yeah.
They dive bomb you, to the point that there's a lot of funny videos online of people being dive bombed. But Australia is a fascinating place. The food is really good. That's one. The food is really, really good.
What kind of food are you eating there?
I'm still a regular kind of meat and potatoes guy, but they had a lot of steakhouses. And their seafood was really good. The steak was really good. Had a lot of goat while I was out there, or lamb. Sorry, a lot of lamb. That was okay. I prefer steak, but yeah, they had a lot of general food like that. It's just its quality was really good. So that was that was something. But I also visited while I was there. Me, the wife, and the kid all went out to a 10,000-year-old rainforest, which was exciting and scary all at the same time. Because at first you're kind of like there's some people around, and you're like, okay, that's fine. And then we kept hiking, and then we were all alone. And then you started hearing animals out there, and that's when it started to be like, okay, let's go this way, sort of thing. Because a lot of animals out there, they're all large and everything has hands. Everything's a marsupial, so they just grab stuff and walk off with it. And it's really weird. It's one of those places it's really hard to describe. It's one of those things that you just got to see. Like, there was a tree there, super old, and its roots were really thin and stuck out of the ground about 3 to 4 feet. And they came, streaming out into the...
Was it a walking tree?
I don't know. I mean, we didn't stay long enough to see if it moved.
No.
But it was, I don't know.
I asked because there's trees in Costa Rica that are like that I've seen that they're called walking trees. And the root that, like you said, it seems like maybe 40 or 50 of them that come up a couple feet, and
they're really thin.
Yeah, they're
thin and tall,
maybe a couple 2-3 inches around, and those trees actually move over time.
Yeah, I've heard of those. No, this one's not like that. They're not round. They're not thin like that. They're thin like walls. So it's about a 2-inch wall that stands about 4 feet high of root that goes into the ground. And it's a maze. You can walk in between them.
Oh my gosh. No, that's totally different.
It stops at the tree trunk. It was incredible until you see the spiders that live in there. Then you're just like, holy Jesus. And because the spiders were insane. But, they didn't harm it. Like, we're just tourists in their little area, and they didn't do anything to us. And but walking through that was really cool. I did 18 zip lines while I was there.
Zip lining is so great.
Oh, zip lining is so much fun. And I did it at that same park.
Rainforest?
That forest, just in this rainforest, but over top of this ravine. And it kind of went down one side, and then you could walk a trail, and there was another one. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm definitely doing that. So I did it again, and you would go across the different side. And then we went down a little further, and there was another one. And so I just kept doing it all the way until I was back to where I started. And but I'd say the funniest part about Australia is when I got out there. I mean, it's a production, and I'm out there for a long time, so I got my own place to live, an apartment, which was cool. And then they gave me a car, and they're just kind of like, here's your car. And I've never driven on the wrong side of the road before. They're just kind of like, and they just kind of throw you the keys. Like, there you go, mate. Good luck. And everything is a roundabout. There's no stop signs anywhere. There's no stop signs. You hit roundabouts all over the place. And so you just kind of, it's always like you just yield to traffic. Well, and several people, you just do your own thing, and they would end up making a left when no one ever makes a left. Everything is right, And so when you hit the roundabouts, you'd go around it via the right and then circle all the way around until you got to your exit. But a lot of these people didn't know, so they would make a left and run into traffic. And several producers got into car accidents and all that. So I was trying to be very careful. But that's how we got to the rainforest, because obviously we didn't stay in the rainforest. But driving out there, I mean, it's weird, just driving on the wrong side of the road and all that kind of stuff. Like, that was interesting. Trying to figure out all that. I'd always go to the wrong side of the car just so I could drive home. Be like, oh yeah, it's on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So that part was interesting. When you go off to these places that you've been, did you drive yourself?
I've never had to drive on the opposite side of the road.
Oh, wait until you try that, my man.
I've driven in other countries, but never a country that did that.
Wait until you try it. It is weird. It's so weird, and like only because I know this, like they can't understand it. Like I'd have to explain everything to the Australian folk, which is like, what's a gallon? And I was like, well, it's kind of like a liter. No one really knows. you know, it's just bigger.
Right.
It's just.
Right.
And they were like, what do you do with a whole gallon of milk? And I'm like, drink it over time? And they're like, yeah, but who needs that? And I was like, I don't know. You don't have to buy it if you don't want to. And, like they got half gallons. How much is that? And I was like, I don't know. It's a half gallon. Because every measurement that I'd bring up, they're like, I don't know what that is.
Right. It's less than a liter.
Yeah, it's less than a liter. It's a bit less than a liter. And gas prices were insane. Because I was just driving this little 4-cylinder car, and and it would go by liters, not by gallons. So and so when I would start filling up, it would cost me $50-$60 every time, and it was like, holy jeez, that's expensive. But yeah. But Australia, one thing that was fun, I did a kayaking trip. That was pretty interesting. But again, we didn't know the place, but the guy that ran it he just let us off on our own and just gave me, he was just like, okay, you pay me however much it was. And then we had a kayak, and he goes, yeah, you go down to the river and you just go down until you see the park. And once you see the park, you come back. I thought it'd be obvious. And so we started kayaking down this river, essentially. And I never saw a park. And next thing you know, we went right out into the ocean. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
I think we passed it, and we're just in this little boat, and there is massive, and I mean, kid you not, massive ships. I'm like, and we're just paddling away, and it's me and this girl that we went out there with. She was my tech, and she turned into another NCAM operator with me. Her name is Kirsten, and it was just me and her on this boat, and we're like, go out. And neither of us have ever kayaked before, so we're just trying our best to get back.
Each of you with one paddle.
Yeah, just each of us with one paddle, just trying our best to get back. Oh, that was a struggle. And then finally on our way back, I realized it was a park. And I mean, the park had to be, I don't know, 400 or 500 feet from where we left. So I was like, geez, we overshot it by a week, And he, and the guy wasn't even, so I was like, obviously we're back much later than expected. Because, I mean, we were paddling our butts off up that river forever and finally getting back. And we take the thing, and it was just like, leave kayak in my front yard was a sign. And so we just threw it in his front yard and left the paddles and then just walked away.
That's insane. Like that's the feeling I'm getting from you about just being in Australia, is the people just are very trusting and
they're trusting, and I think they know that I'm an American and they can beat the hell out of me too. So it was, because those guys are tough dudes over there. Like the Australian folk are, I mean, they are built different, but because they seem to deal with all this kind of stuff all the time. But they did seem very trusting and open and extremely friendly, and it was nice. I actually really, really enjoyed it. And again, I was on the Gold Coast is where I was staying, is what it was called. And we did some driving around and did some exploring as best that we could. Like I went into Queensland and all this kind of stuff, and drove around there, and we walked some of the parks and stuff like that just to see it. But again, it was tough because I didn't really know how to drive very well. So sometimes it was a lot of fun, and other times you'd get in traffic and it was super scary. Because you were afraid you were going to make a mistake and, crash the car or something like that and have to explain yourself out of that one.
Yeah,
but
I feel like I could get anxious.
Oh, yeah. And again, to your trusting thing, there was all kinds of moped rentals, which was fantastic, and a ton of parks around there. A lot of parks with paved roads. and stuff like that in there. So me, my wife, and son, we all rented mopeds when they came out and visited, and we rode the mopeds all around, and that is something I'll never forget. If you get the chance, rent mopeds, go for a ride. Stephen had no idea how to drive one of these things, so he was trying to figure it out by running into things. And, and they just like, don't worry about it. Just take it. It's fine. Good day, sort of thing as you took off. And we found a bird park not too far away. And it was, beautiful birds, giant, crazy looking birds, peacocks, all the rest of the stuff. And they were everywhere. And we would just ride in that. And man, that was, I'll never forget that. It was so pretty and such a nice little ride, because a lot of the other parks was full of a lot of tourists. So you were just mainly dodging people. And then we found that park, and it was nowhere near as many people because of the magpies. And so we would just ride all over the place in there. And that was a lot of fun. But again, it was just like, return it in several hours if you want. And we'd take off. And then we'd just return it back and just kind of drop it off. Like, here you go. And they're like, cool, just leave it there. And then we left. And we did that a couple of times. And that was a lot of fun. But anytime that you get to do any of that kind of stuff, oh boy, do I recommend it.
That's really cool. And just for clarity, incredible. Even though now we're 95% of the way through the podcast, when you say Steven, you mean your son. When you say Steve, you mean your friend.
Yes, Steven is my son. Yeah, I almost every person in my life is some name of Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah, even my middle name is Steven. My dad is Steven.
Yeah.
But anytime I say Steven, that's my son. Anytime I say Steve, it's my best friend since the third grade. Yeah. And my son's spelling of his name is spelled after Steve's real name, which is Steven, but with a V, not a PH.
Yeah.
So I spelt it after him.
Just in case anyone was confused.
Yeah, in case anybody's confused. Yeah, my son is Steven, and when I found those bulls, my son was only about 4. Me and my son. Yeah,
it was Steve on the bike, not your son. Yeah.
Yeah, and but later, me and my son did walk all the way back to that place and saw the bulls again.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and he was 4, and we saw him from a distance because I wasn't about to walk next to him. And so we, not with my son with me. So
that's a good
but dad. We got to see him, and I was pointing at him, and I tried to take pictures, but in the photos they're just like, they're all black cows, essentially. Yeah. Yeah. And we left. But
so,
yeah.
I want to touch on Mexico just because it's another place outside the country that you've been. And I don't know, it was a resort, maybe it was just like a fun experience, but is there anything else from Australia that just knocks you out because it seems like you really loved it there, even though
I did.
You prefaced by saying that you didn't get a lot of time outside of work.
Well, but I did have a lot of time outside of work, but it was, I always had to be around. Yeah. I always had to be close to the Gold Coast because it was like, oh, you're not working today, but keep your phone on you. Okay. So
what does that mean? Why would that happen? Like what circumstances would there be that?
This was the thing about me being out in Australia, and the reason why they were telling me that is they paid my day rate every day I was there. And even the days I wasn't working. So they paid me every day. And so because of that, they gave me my own cell phone. That was an Australian cell phone. So I was always being paid. So it wasn't like Montreal when I wasn't on, I would get a half day rate, but when I was on, I would get my full day rate. And so even though I was only paid a half day for that day, that was only because I was away from being at home. But on this particular job, they paid me my full day rate every day. And that was their request, is that I would have my phone on me in case they decided to shoot something and the director, James Wan, might want to see something that would require my services. I would have to drive out there.
Did that ever happen?
No.
Okay, just wondered.
Oh, wait. No, it happened 1 week. That was it. 1 week out of 8 months. So yeah, and that's why I was bummed. But at the same time, I was there, which normally this is not how it goes. Normally that is not the case. So I get a little bit more time. But, in this particular instance, they were paying me. And so I felt obligated. And again, like I said at the beginning, this was one of the first huge movie, gigantic budget that I had ever done. And I was really excited, and I just wanted to make an impression.
Yeah. You did
So,
the right thing.
I was, and it just happened to take place in Australia. And, but after being there, I loved that place. And the beaches, oh my God, I walked so many beaches out there, and they are unbelievable. Just beautiful beaches, clean, except for all the jellyfish. Certain spots would have massive amount of jellyfish. Avoid them. But when they didn't, it was very, very pretty, calm. It was really nice. Again, it's another one of those things that you kind of just got to experience it for yourself. It's really hard to describe the beauty of some of these places. Like, I'm not doing that rainforest justice. It's been there for 10,000 years. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's awesome, man.
Like, and we did a treetop challenge, which was really cool. That lasted hours, and it was like zip lines and cables going from treetop to treetop, and then a whole walkway built on top of trees. And so you weren't on the ground the whole time you were there. It was, again, and it was in this crazy, like, part of this rainforest, this other section of the rainforest, and it was breathtaking. You're taking a cable from one side and basically doing a Mission Impossible just with a tether on you from one tree to another. It was, it was just so cool. It's like, you got to do those experiences. Just seeing it isn't good enough. You got to really dive in. If you see something abandoned, go into it. Try. I mean, as long as it's not going to kill you, or it's not going to,
get you arrested.
Be like, what's that?
Not going to get you arrested.
Yeah, like, most of the time you can talk your way right out of that sort of thing. But but yeah, if there's all kinds of fences saying "do not enter," that's different. But if it's just like an abandoned place that you can go up and look, just have a look. Because at one point there was people there. There's history there. To me, it's very interesting to me to see those kind of things.
Yeah, it hit you.
Yeah.
So, was there anything about your trip to Mexico that stood out to you? What was that trip for?
It was a show called Celebrity Sports Invitational. So I basically tooled around most of downtown old area over there at Puerto Vallarta and Nueva Vallarta sort of area, and did with William Shatner, which was very interesting because he's just a weird, kooky dude, and he's known everywhere. It's amazing his popularity down there. But we went into some old churches. We went to a lot of vendors and like vendors in the street. The like the ladies that are selling you like fruit out of a cart, essentially. And then she chops it all up with like this oversized machete.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yep, not in person. I've seen them in videos. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we went to all of them, and as many as we could, just to stop and have something to film. And I was filming a lot of B-roll stuff, and I was doing a lot of sound at the time. So I was a sound guy, a boom swinger, as they would have called me. And but one of the thing for me that stood out was when I first got down to the first celebrity I met was Buzz Aldrin, which I thought was cool.
Oh, wow.
I'm 3 years out of Jamestown. I'm meeting a guy that landed on the moon. The story topper of the century,
Absolutely.
Yeah, the guy that can beat any story that anybody's ever told.
Have you seen the there's a stand-up comedy special called I Walked on the Moon?
No, I haven't.
The thing is he talks about the me monsters, the people that are always so self-centered and talking about themselves, and And at the
Are you talking
very
about
end,
Brian?
Brian Regan. Brian Regan.
Brian Regan. Yeah.
And at the very end, the last story is they're sitting at a dinner table and all these people are talking about whatever, and he's just sitting there eating, and he's like, "I walked on the moon," and they're like, "Whoa!" Like, there you
Yeah, like
go.
what'd you do? I did
Yeah.
this. I walked on the moon.
Uh-huh.
Just walk away. Yeah, well, that's what I thought of when I saw him. I was like, dude, how can I even talk to this guy? It turns out he was friendly as long as you didn't, as long as you didn't believe in flat Earth. He was very very nice dude.
That's awesome.
And it was just kind of cool. And it was really interesting seeing an astronaut. You're just like, wow, that's the guy. He was he was the second person ever to walk on the moon. And then he's in his swim trunks and gets into the alligator sled and slides down this slide that's shaped like an alligator. And I'm like, oh, okay.
He's just a regular guy.
Yeah, he's just a regular dude, and, so that part, he sleeps with his mouth open like the rest of us. Just,
Yeah.
and,
how was Bill? Any cool stories from Bill?
Shatner?
That's what I call him.
And, you guys are tight.
We're on a first
We
name
actually did
basis.
call him Bill the whole time. And,
My name is Bill too, so we got that.
No, Bill was just a funny dude. Like, I don't know, kooky.
He
like,
seems
in
always
a way,
upbeat. Always upbeat.
He was, yeah. Like every lady that he met, and he always talked just the way that you would think. And it's like, wow, you are that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, you are that guy, and but wildly popular dude. And so everywhere he went, everybody knew him. Everybody wanted to take a picture with him and stuff like that. This was before cell phones had all the cameras in them and stuff. Because again, this was like 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
And so I mean, flip phones had some cameras in them, so everyone was taking if they could get a picture. But we weren't in the village at this point. We were out in actual, just like the regular town, and it was poor, very poor. And so, like the churches and stuff that I saw, like they were beautiful, old, like very old, but very small. Like the hallways and stuff were very small. And but yeah, it was gorgeous down there. And then the rest of the time was spent at the village. And of course, any village that you go to is going to be, like this was the Paradise Village. So on the drive in, there was a literal zoo outside. So you would pass tigers and stuff like that as you were coming in. I mean, it's not how the folks down there live,
Mm-hmm.
And so we went off and saw how they lived, and they're just just regular people all trying to make a buck, stuff like that. I had some disgusting chicken wings, and I don't know what they battered them in, but whatever it was, it did not agree with me. And but the rest of the time we spent at the village, because essentially our job was, we were down there. All these celebrities were down there, like the Baldwin brothers and all this kind of stuff. And we were just meant to interview them and film them doing stuff. And I was doing, and like Judd Nelson came out. Judd Nelson? You've heard of him?
Of course.
Okay.
Breakfast Club.
Make sure. Breakfast Club. Yeah, exactly. And he goes, and this was a defining moment in my television career. He goes there was a plank that was over top of a pool with a basket, and inside the basket was a bottle of tequila. And if you could grab the tequila out of the basket, you got all kinds of free gifts. Now, we're basically hired by the Hawaiian Tropic people, so there was all the Hawaiian Tropic girls and stuff like that there. Mm-hmm. And to do this event, they were one of the big sponsors, and they don't like seeing the crew in the video. And so that was like a thing. Like, don't try to mix yourself in with the celebrities. You know
Sure.
what I mean? It's about the celebrities. So I was sitting there, and so he goes out and he tries to get to the basket, and he slips and he fell in to the water. And when he got out, we were supposed to do like interviews, like, well, do you think you could make it next time? Blah, 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 whatever, stupid stuff like that. It was, I don't even know how people watch the show. You're just basically asking drunk people, like, how did you do that? And then, so he comes up and he was just like, yeah, it's a lot of fun. You should try it, walking on a pole over a pool. And and we're like, yeah, what did you, like, if you feel like if you got a running start, would you make it? And all of a sudden he stopped the interview and he said, you should try it. And the camera guy was kind of looked over at the producers and they were like, no, no. And he said, and Judd Nelson said to the camera guy, I know you can't go into the water because you got all of this heavy equipment, but I've been a sound guy before, so I can do his job. And he took my gear. And then he asked me to run across, and he goes, I want you to try it. Now, again, you're not supposed to be mixed in with the celebrities, which I was not trying to. He made me.
But the celebrity is directly telling you to do it.
Exactly. And so it was totally fine. So I'm in my regular clothes, so I stripped down to basically my underwear. And I'm like, because if I fall into the pool, I had my wallet, my cell phone. I mean, all this stuff. I was like,
This
so
is not
I was
safe.
just like, all
this
right.
is not safe for TV.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was down. I had I was wearing shorts. It was down in North Vallarta, and so I was, but I stripped down to that, and I was, and he goes, okay, now be careful. It's very slippery out there. And I ran across the pole, and it was so easy, and grabbed the bottle and landed in the water, and I won, and I was the only person to try it. But before I got out there, this was the greatest part. This is why it was defining for me, is they all started chanting sound guy. And it was like celebrities that I grew up with, knowing them in television shows, like the Dukes of Hazzard stars, like back in the old Dukes of Hazzard show. Yeah, they were there. Cheech and Chong, the Alec Baldwin and his brothers, it's like James Gandolfini was there and stuff like that. And they're like, sound guy, sound guy, sound guy. And I ran out, grabbed it and landed, and that place went nuts. And they started jumping into the pool and trying to grab, see if they could put another bottle in there and put another one so everyone else could try it. No one did it except for me. So I won this huge basket of alcohol, and anybody that knows me knows I don't drink a drop.
Right.
So I handed out huge bottles of tequila, just handing them out to guests and stuff like that. And all, the Hawaiian Tropic girls all came down and they all had bottles. It was like, what is happening right now? And they,
is there video footage of this?
It made it into the show. But the only part that made it in the show, because I'm not the celebrity, was me grabbing the bottle and landing into the water.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome!
That's what made it. The reason why it was a defining moment wasn't just because it was really, really freaking cool, but because none of the other crew up to that point ever got asked to do anything. So Richard, my old boss, he was telling me, he goes, I've been doing this show for 20 years. No one has ever asked me to do a damn thing. This is your first time out. And they ask you to grab the bottle and you do it. And they're chanting sound guy. I've been the sound guy for 20 years. No one's ever said that.
What is the name of the show again?
It was called Celebrity Invitational.
Okay.
They do like 2 or 3 every year, and this was long time ago. So I've tried finding that show again, and I have been unsuccessful. So if you find it, please let me, because it's just like live TV, like it's live to tape, it's shot to tape, and then it's played as if it's live, and of course it is not. And but it was. That became like a thing. Like all of a sudden, when I got the next day, we were doing all the interviews on the golf course, and all of them came up and was like, "Man, that was so cool!" Like Cheech Mariner came up to me and he's like, "You're the guy that fell into the pool," and I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "That was cool, man," and stuff like that. And it was, I don't know, it was just really neat.
That's pinch yourself stuff.
Yeah, no, I was 20. I was like 22. Or 22 or 23, I'm a sound guy on this show, and it's like I got all these guys saying that, and it's like the Dukes of Hazzard guy was there. I'm totally spacing on his name, and but I used to watch that show when I was a kid, and here
Was it
I'm
John
hanging
Schneider
out.
or?
Yeah, him. Yeah, tall blonde.
Yep.
um, and he was so cool. And, and with Judd Nelson sitting up there, Judd Nelson interviewed me after, but of course none of this made it to air.
No, but
But
I'll bet
he
you
was,
could reach out to Judd Nelson today. He'd probably still remember you.
I bet he would. I bet he would, because he sat there and he was just like, holy crap, I can't believe you made it. What was that like? And he sticks the microphone right in my face and stuff like that. And it was, and I was just like, well, it was a lot easier than I thought. You made it look hard. I don't know why you did that. I was like, that wasn't that hard.
Oh,
And,
that's hilarious.
I was like, just run straight. And and of course they had to get it back on the celebrity, but none of the producers were mad. And so I went up and I asked one of my producers, are the Tropic guys, are they upset because they did that? And he goes, no, since they asked you, they loved it. They thought it was awesome. And, and I was
cool,
like,
dude.
okay. And so it was, it was really cool. And the same thing happened out in Hawaii doing Miss America. One of the camera guys got sick and they put me on one of the cameras. And I had never operated a camera. And this was before the Mexico trip. So it was even earlier on in my career. And I started shooting the ladies walking down, like the runway. And that's how apparently I did a good job. So they started hiring me as a camera guy. And, but I was 20, 22, 21, 22. I think I was 22.
It's crazy how things happen.
I know. And just 2 years prior, me and you were sitting at like Denny's,
Perkins.
Yeah, Perkins, Denny's, whatever. I think it turned into Denny's by that time, I think. But yeah, going to Perkins and having coffee, and it's like, and then all of a sudden you're in Nueva Vallarta, getting tequila from all these celebrities. It was weird. It was super weird. But that was, it was an amazing place. But those are more or less the things that I remember. It's the experience that you have. Because, the sights you can see in pictures, and they're stunning. But, so wherever you go, you just kind of got to make it some kind of adventure that you'll always remember that you did that there. Like, you ever go see any of the Cirque du Soleil shows in Vegas?
The only one I ever saw that I remember was the Michael Jackson one, which was life-changing for me.
Wow, I don't even, when was this?
That was at the MGM Grand maybe 6 years ago, give or
Oh wow,
take.
they changed it.
And I'll be honest with you. So my wife has always been a massive Michael Jackson fan, and I never was. Matter of
Thriller?
fact, his songs would come on the radio, and I would want to change the station. Just I don't know what it was, but something about for some reason I just didn't like his music, and she
Okay.
brought me to that show because she was such a huge fan, and I'm always fine to see Cirque du Soleil. And
Oh yeah.
so we saw the show, and it changed me completely. I fell in love with him and his music and his story. And if anyone gets a chance to see the Michael Jackson one show, it's incredible. Not just the actual Cirque du Soleil, like just the fact of the performers and what they do, it's which is incredible. First of all, and then when he comes out on stage and they dance with
Hmm.
him, oh, it's just
I
incredible.
was gonna say, I was working on the show This Is It tour that was shot in 3D when I was working at the 3D company owned by James Cameron. He died during that, so I was like, he came out. Like that's weird. I remember when he died, since I was working with him, and that was longer than 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
It's a hologram of
Yeah,
him.
it's a hologram of him, and it's sort of set off in the distance a little bit. Actually,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just watched this with my son the other night because I found a recording on YouTube,
Oh,
and
you got to
it,
send me that. I'd love to see that.
oh, it's just
Uh,
incredible when they come out and
yeah.
dance with him. It's wonderful. But the
Now
whole
was
show is basically the story of his life and his trials and tribulations, and
oh
it's
wow.
it's just so well done, and
Yeah.
it just really brought to light what he went through as a human being. and that's what really made it hit home for me.
Yeah.
Everything that he went through, and still was always trying to be so positive and be light, and
Yeah.
for everybody, literally everybody, and just what an amazing, incredible human that we lost way too early. And so I
Yeah.
just loved that show so much. It was so impactful for me.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
just, and the fact that it was Cirque du Soleil too was, I mean, their shows are just
Well,
incredible. So
did you see any of the other ones? Like, did you see the one where I think it's in the MGM where the floor goes up, rotates? It's the size of a basketball court.
no, I did not. I
In,
think I've seen
in
another Cirque du Soleil show somewhere along the way, but I don't. Not in Vegas.
Yeah. Well, I did the movie Cirque du Soleil that was produced by Jim, and we went down there and shot the whole thing, and I was at every Cirque du Soleil show that they had, which was pretty incredible. But again, this brings me back to when I was saying why I love doing it for work is because I was a part of Cirque du Soleil, the movie, so I could go wherever. And but I went to like Bellagio's the Beatles Love, which was really cool. And I can't remember the name of the one that they were playing at the MGM, but the floor would go up, it would raise up, it would tilt, it would rotate. It had spikes that came out of it, so the guys could grab onto spikes as they fell. And that stage was the size of a basketball court. At least that's how it was explained to me. And I was just like, oh, there's a lot of rafters in this place. But again, I'm a part of the production, so I just went upstairs above it and just walked around on the rafters. And I told him I was looking for places that perhaps maybe we could hang lights, which we didn't. But I just wanted to go up and just see what it was like up there. And then I went way below it because there's like 4 stories down. One of the guys was sliding on the thing, missed the net, and died about 3 days prior to us being there.
Oh my gosh!
Which so people were, but something weird always happens to me every time I go off on these shoots. On that shoot, the main star lady of that movie, she was a Cirque ex Cirque du Soleil person, so she was there, and one of these guys came up to me. Some guy came up to me, put his arm around me, and he's like, "Man, how you been?" And I looked at him, and I just said, "I don't know you." That was all I said. And the guy got a better look at me, and he went, "Oh, Jesus, you look just like," and he said a name. And I'm like, "I don't know who that is. I'm sorry." And so I started walking away. It turns out it was that woman's husband that I looked just like. And so she came over to me and talked to me about that. I met her husband, or it was her boyfriend. I don't really know their marital status. But yet now I got to meet her as well. So now I know the main star. And so like I was really able to do whatever I wanted. So every time she was going down, she was like, "Oh, hey guys, how's it going? Where's Derek?" And then she'd wave and stuff like that, because it was this thing. All of that guy's friends came out to see him, and they got me mixed up with him and followed me into different areas, and then finally came over and said, "Hey, like, where are you going?" And it wasn't him, it was me. And so it's just fun stuff like that was really, really interesting. But that's what I remember most about that trip. I barely remember the actual shows, because I like to remember the other things that happened, whatever experience that was.
Oh,
But
sure,
like
real
the
life.
Beatles, yeah, well, yeah, and like behind the scenes, like watching the Beatles Love and how they did that stuff, it was epic. And then we got, and seeing all those different shows just jumping around from one thing to the other. But again, everything is open to you because you're a part of the show. You're a part of the movie. So they're just like, "Oh, you want to go." And so like the Joker guy, he looked just like the Joker. And I told him that he looked like Heath Ledger's Joker at the time. He was kind of not narrating, but doing a performance at the Bellagio. And I went up and talked to him and told him how much I liked his outfit and stuff like that. And then he just showed me around the whole place, just like behind the scenes at Bellagio. which
Listen,
was cool.
there's something and I talked with Brian last week on our
Yeah,
first episode about do you ever try to just strike up conversations with people when you're in these other places, whether it's fellow travelers or locals or whatever? And he's a more reserved person. He said it takes more out of him to have those conversations, or at least to put himself out there like that. If someone talks to him, that's fine. But I agree. Like when I go places, I do try to strike up conversations because you never know where they're going to lead, especially with people who aren't tourists but are locals to wherever
yeah,
you are, whether it's Vegas or West Virginia or if you're overseas somewhere. I think that is a game changer for me. Like those, you can create some really incredible experiences just by saying hello or just by saying, like you said, I like your outfit, and that can turn into something that you never would have
yeah.
experienced if you didn't just say
No, he would have
something.
walked right by me. He'd have walked right by me because he was walking right by me, and I was just like, "Dude, I love your outfit." And he was like, "Hey, thanks, man." And all of a sudden, I was just like, "No, you look just like the Joker," and I love the Joker. It's amazing. And he was like, "Cool. You want to see the changing room is where it started?" And we went down there to see all the crazy costumes that they had for this thing. And then he was just, and while talking there, it moved into somewhere else, and it moved into somewhere else, and it was just this guy in full, and everybody knew him because he's him, and he just walked us through all this. It was crazy,
That's
But
insane.
yeah, I think that everybody should because you're a tourist, they are not. So much like me, if someone came out here like, oh, what are some places that I would tell them to go see like California City. That's not really in the travel plans. The travel plans a lot of the times just show you the spots to go see, like Santa Monica Pier, which is basically just homeless people holding hands. And then it's like you can go and look at that. That's cool. It's very iconic. It's been in a lot of stuff. But there's a lot of other things to see. But I know that because I live here. And it's the same thing for them out there. They might know of some really interesting things that you can do that you otherwise wouldn't find with Travelocity or
Well,
whatever.
that's why almost every restaurant that I go to for the first time, whether it's here in the States or overseas, I when the first time I sit down, even if I don't take their suggestion, I ask them,
Yeah.
"What's your favorite thing on the menu?"
Yeah.
Because you work here every day. If there's something that you eat all the time because you love it so much, I want that.
Yeah. I want to try it.
So unless it's something that I don't like or doesn't agree with me, and I'm not willing to, I'm willing to try almost anything.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I'm a picky eater. So I it's like if they recommend something that I know I'll like, I'll be like, oh, okay. But if they're like, oh, the fish eyes, I'm like,
I would
no
probably
thanks.
try fish eyes.
Yeah.
Hey,
Not me.
I had a guinea pig in South America. It was awesome. It was really good.
Oh, that
Uh,
reminds me. I forgot to tell you when I was in Hawaii too. I went on a 3 hour. This is going to sound really like the beginning of Gilligan's Island. A 3 hour tour, and when I was out on the 3 hour tour, it was a Mai Tai cruise, and that was really cool to test. But it also they turned out they were fishing for sharks. I didn't know that
oh
when
my
I got on
gosh.
the boat, and I found out later when sharks were around. And me, I don't know if you know this about me, is because really we're never out in the water, but I get seasick very easy. So I was devastatingly seasick off on this tour, and they kept telling me just look at the horizon, which didn't quite
Yes,
settle my
that's
stomach.
what they say. Yes.
Yeah, like look at the horizon, just look at the horizon. I was already just sick, but I was still trying to enjoy myself. Like me and my wife went whale watching here, and it was a hell of a time. But I did feed the fish. But we were out there, and it was crazy that all of a sudden he's reeling this thing in, and it was catch and release, and he was reeling it in, and it was a shark, and I was just like, what, for it's just it was those kooky things, and we just found it. He had like a billboard in the sand, and me and Brandy, a girl that I was with over there, She was another person I was working with, because again, I was doing the Miss America show, and she was like, "Hey, you want to go on that?" And I just said sure, and it was, that is what made that such an incredible experience. And then all of a sudden, they turned out to be shark fishing at the same time, and it's like, and the boat wasn't big. It wasn't a cruise. I mean, this was like one of those boards that you put over your chest and walk around downtown. Says like, whatever it says on it, like go to Subway. It was like the size of one of those that was sitting there in the sand. And so we paid this guy, and he took us out in his personal boat and was shark fishing and had Mai Tais. And it was 3 hours. And, but what I hope by all these little stories, if anybody really listens to any of these stories, most of it, I think the traveling comes down to is, and this is going to sound maybe too preachy or hokey, but it's not necessarily about your destination, is what I was trying to say earlier. It's definitely not. It's not only the journey. It's definitely the company that you keep, for sure. In my opinion, that's the stuff that I remember the most. I spent 8 months in Australia, and the stuff I remember the most is what I was doing with my wife and son in Australia, because I enjoyed their company. We had a great time. It created stories for us all to tell. And those are the ones that are really fresh in my mind more than any of the stuff that I did by myself. And when I was in Montreal, I hung out with my tech at the time. His name is Devin. And, we would walk all over the place and had a great time. And if it wasn't for these people, the Brandy out in Hawaii and down in Norte Vallarta, because I did the show for the same company, and like Kirsten out in Australia, and so on and so forth, and of course our buddy Steve, like that's what made it amazing. Like, I remember me and Steve doing four-wheeling more than I remember most of Norte Vallarta. And it's because it was me and him just finding these places, and it's the adventures, I guess you could call it, that you ended up having. Like when we popped a tire out in the middle of the desert, so far away we couldn't see any lights from any city from the highest peak at a 360 degree, and we had 2 flat tires. So we just started driving until the tire ripped off of the rim completely, and I have the photograph to prove it, of us trying. And we ran into a guy that was driving a four-wheeler, like an actual ATV, and he stopped over and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we said, "Oh, we blew a tire, and now we're down to just steel rims." And and there was sparks flying. It was insane. And he goes, "Hold on a second," and he grabbed our spare, and our spare was the only one that we had, and it was popped too. Because the one tire, I made it sound like both tires blew out. One blew out, and our spare was flat. We didn't know it was flat, and didn't know it was flat until it was too late. And so he takes that tire, and he drives off, and he shows up about an hour and a half later, and it's fixed. And we're like, "Where did you go? Where did you come from?" And he goes, during the day, I repaired I work for a tire place, and I repair tires all day." Me and Steve were looking around, and I was like, "What?" Like, I mean, we are far away, far. It took us 4 hours to find the next freeway from where we were. And 4 hours of driving in a truck with all of its tires working to finally find civilization again. We were way out there. And granted, we're not traveling at like 75 miles per hour. We're four-wheeling. And out of all the people that we run into, we just happened to run into a guy that repairs tires for a living. And he repaired the tire. We put it on, drove out. And, we didn't have any water, and it was supposed to be 135 degrees that morning, and the sun was about to come up. And we were a complete flat tire, like only rim. But it's, but those types of stories, that I think is what makes traveling so much fun, is the people that you meet, and the situations that they get you into. It's definitely not just like I feel like I could go and see the most beautiful place in my mind would be something like Italy, because I love the whole old thing of Rome, but I don't think I would enjoy it nearly as much, and I don't think I would remember it as well if I didn't go with someone that I really wanted to do this trip with.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, I get it.
it's
I
it
agree.
definitely has to be with people that you love to be with.
Look, and
Yeah.
not that there's not something to be said for solo travel. I think that
No,
solo
I
travel
love
is
solo
wonderful,
travel. I've done a lot.
I would be happy to do solo travel, and I think I probably will start doing some solo travel. But
Yeah.
I understand completely what you're saying. Shared experiences make such a difference.
Because then you talk about it and it's like you try to explain your own solo travel, and I've done a lot of solo travel. All the walks that I've taken, a lot of that stuff through like Vancouver and all that. Like again, I remember more about our four-wheeling days back in early 2000s than I do of my Vancouver trip that was in 2016. Because I was alone. So I don't have that shared experience to be able, like, it was awesome and epic at the time. I definitely recommend as much as you can travel. Definitely do it. But there's something to be said when all of a sudden it's like you and someone else are explaining the same story and you just start rehashing it because now you're seeing it from their side too, and it makes a world of difference, and it'll stay as more of a fluid memory for you.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely want to ask you of,
Yeah.
and you can share as many places as you want, or if maybe it's not a thing for you, maybe there aren't any, but any place that stands out to you as like the greatest food city in the world that you've been to, and why?
Well, I mean, I just want to prefix this with I am not a food guy. Okay. But boy, Hawaii had really good seafood. That was really fresh. That was really good.
In
I'm trying to think of
in
some others.
Australia?
Australia had some, again, it was really good seafood, but we were on the coast, so it's super fresh. It was unbelievable. And I like seafood, but I like, it's pretty simple. I'm a simpleton when it comes to food. You know, I like steak. I like shrimp. But I tried calamari for my first time in Hawaii. Never had it. And I fell in love with it out there. It was so good, and no place has ever beat it. New York, the pizza, it's so good. Even when you get it in just a dumpster fire of a place, it's crazy how good those guys make pizza. But then again, I spent a lot of times getting the hot dogs there because I'm just not a big food person. I fell in love with Korean barbecue, but again, I don't eat a lot that's on the menu out in Montreal. They had a really nice Korean barbecue there. That was really good. I'm trying to think of the best. I guess I'd go with Hawaii had the greatest seafood, and the reason why is because it just seemed so dang fresh. It was so good. Yeah, that was pretty epic. The lobster out there and all that. Oh man.
Okay,
Uh,
and that's all fair. Like, and which is what's crazy for me is that, maybe I'm a hybrid. When I travel places, I love the architecture, I love the people, I love trying to get immersed in the the culture and trying to find out what locals do. I don't want to just go to a place and just experience tourist things, quote
yeah.
unquote.
No,
But
it's absolutely. If you get a chance to go to Australia, you or anybody that ends up listening to this, talk to the Aussies out there, the Australian folk. Oh man, the stories that those people have, they are nuts. They're amazing people. Like I really enjoyed. Like I still have friends that I still talk to, and I haven't seen them since. I haven't gone back, but I still talk to several of the Australians that I made friends with along the way, and just what an incredible group of people.
that's
Like
awesome.
you
But
you
yet,
you really do
but
got to talk to the people. Yeah.
But for me, food is also a big part of the experience. So it's funny for me to have we're 2 episodes in and to have two
Yeah.
people who were like, yeah, no, the travel's great, the food isn't really my thing. And which it
No,
is what it is.
I
Like,
feel bad. I
no,
get
no,
asked that all the time.
no,
Yeah.
don't. It's who you are. That's your experiences, and that's fine. So I guess to kind of wrap things up, there are still a couple of more questions I want to ask, and then we'll end
Yeah. Go
things.
ahead.
But I want to
Shoot.
know: is there a place that you have been to that you just for whatever reason, and it's not necessarily anything against the place, but you're like, no, I'm good. If I never go back there again, yeah, I'm good.
Nueva Vallarta. Yeah. If I never went back there, I'm okay. I've got to go into the city, and and it's crazy because on the village it's so nice, and then you go outside of it, like all the places that are touristy stuff like that is great, but the some parts that we ended up in were so poverty stricken that it was nuts. And again, I'm not a food person, and like spices upset my stomach. I just got a weak stomach. That's my problem. And so like finding food out there was tough, for me. So
Okay.
I just essentially ate fruits, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Okay, that's
And
fair.
and I accidentally brushed my teeth with the water. Oh, damn it. That ruined like 2 days.
uh,
That
I don't want.
that
I
was
don't.
epic.
I
Horrible.
don't want to hear more information about that. So,
No, let's
um,
really take a deep dive.
yeah, that's the
It was
bonus
horrible.
episode.
No,
So,
but some reason that it didn't, like I felt bad because I felt like and I guess this goes for several places. You almost feel like you're living a lie. Like you go in there and you're in this touristy town, and everything is so great, and then you drive a little ways out of it, and it's like, whoa, like these guys need some help.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
this is
Well,
bad,
and
and
we discussed that last week actually when I we were talking about I when I talked to Brian, he was talking about the Dominican Republic when he was there and how like different places were so poverty stricken, but obviously when you go to like bigger cities or touristy places, they're great. And I mentioned that we experienced that in Puerto Rico when we went some years ago. That you go to you go to the touristy places, they're beautiful, they're wonderful, it's
yeah,
awesome. That's there's
yeah,
so much money flowing because the restaurants and the buildings are beautiful, everything's but you just travel a little bit down the road and people are living day to day just hoping they can get a meal because
yeah.
uh you know just the way the
And
situation was there. But
same
uh
same goes for Hawaii. To the native Hawaiians, like they rely completely on the tourism, but it's like people just buy land that is owed to them through their lineage, and they're just like, nah, I just bought it, it's mine. It's just, and so you start to feel like that these places that you see, they're gorgeous, but at the same time you almost feel like, wow, it's kind of a lie, because we
yeah,
had to do a section of that of the show, and it was crazy. Like they seem to really, they're enjoying it because it brings money into their community, but at the same time the tourism is what's ruining it in the first place. That was the same thing that went with the
sure.
redwoods. We had to kick all the people out because they started cutting down trees and making them into homes. And they would stop forest fires, and those trees rely on forest fires to happen. That's how their seed pods hit the ground, is all the small trees below burn up. And that's why they're so big, is they don't. So and so they had to get rid of all the people and make it a part of that no one could live there,
Hmm.
because people were just claiming the land and ruining it. And but yet as long as it continues to make the big money, nobody seems to really care. And
Yeah,
that part is, it's a little devastating when you go and see these places that are so beautiful, and then you go just a few miles out and you're like, what happened? And it's like, oh, all the money goes in there, and of course the guys that own that, they're not giving it up. You know, they're not sharing the wealth, and that kind of stuff really sucks.
Again, so back to places you've been.
Yeah.
So flipping it from places that you would never go again, where is the one place that you have been? I have a feeling maybe it's Australia, but I'm just guessing,
Oh,
and I
I'd
could
love
be
to.
very wrong. But of all the places you've been that you're like, I definitely have to go back there someday.
I'd, because it's far away and it's harder to get to, I would have to say Australia. Yeah, Australia. I'd love to take my family to see old Montreal as well. So I just thought it was beautiful. It was epic. But Australia is. I just had such a good time out there. I hope that we could replicate that kind of a time again. You know,
Yeah,
when we got out there, because I loved it and I love the people. Yeah, it was all really that place was really cool. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I'd definitely go there, or I'd go to Montreal just because it's just the sights. It's like what you were saying. You can't feel any more like England or whatever over there. It's just it was insanely pretty in that old part of Montreal. It was just a sight to see.
yeah. So what's on it? And I'm going to do this the same way every time. I want to say what's on your bucket list, but I'm gonna change that up a little bit. I don't want it to just be someday I'll get there. I wanna say you get an email to your inbox one day where there's a half price flight to get you. You'll never find it again. This is the most incredible deal.
Okay,
Where are you going to go in the world that you haven't
Italy,
been?
Italy,
Any place in particular? Italy is very large.
Rome.
Yeah.
I'd love. Yeah, I don't know why I love the history. I really like Italian food. It agrees with me.
Yep.
I hear it's beautiful over there. I'd love to, like I said, I'd love to get a job working over there because, again, I get access to all
Yep.
kinds of crazy stuff. But if something like if it was a trip and like I think my family would really like to go there, I'd love to take my wife there. Italy, Rome, Italy, sort of. I mean, there's so many nice places, but if I had to pick a city, that's where me personally, that's where I
Yeah.
would want to
Um,
see. Yeah.
Let me tell you if you'd like this. You tell me if you'd like this experience.
Okay.
Um, Stayed 2 blocks from the Colosseum in a place where you could walk up to the top where there was a veranda and you
I'm
could
already
actually
in.
you can see the Colosseum. Just walking down the street at night, seeing the ruins and everything, and all of a sudden you hear someone singing opera, and then you keep walking, and it's just a woman with some people around her, just sitting off to the side of the road, and she's singing opera. It was the most amazing experience that I will never forget. I don't know who she was.
Exactly.
I don't know why she was singing, but it was beautiful. Yeah, Rome was really incredible. And I think
Yeah.
that maybe you should put on your list because I just because of having this discussion with you, Athens. I think that should be on your list as well. I think you'd
Okay.
really
Yeah.
enjoy Athens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, it's really hard to pinpoint. That's because that's really a problem that a lot of people have, and I'm no stranger to it. Is the overwhelming like I want to do this, like I want to go to Italy. Like you said, it's really big. It's like where do you go? And and depending on your budget, it's like you want to see all of these different places. I want to go here. 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 And then you wait for all that time to finally to do it. And a lot of the times you end up missing the opportunity or you're
Mhm.
never able to save up that much because you had plans on going to Rome, Athens, and after that I want to stop at the pyramids for some reason as if they're close. And then I want to go see London, and then I want to go see Greenland, and and it's like and it becomes overwhelming to people And then you look at the cost of how much it would take to do that and the time, and then you end up not doing it. So it's like really just find a
Right.
place
Yep.
and
Start
go.
somewhere. Yeah. You won't
Yeah.
be disappointed with Rome, I promise. Just
No, exactly.
don't go in the middle of August, because if those that are listening don't know, in the middle of August is when the locals take their vacations, and I mean everyone. The entire country takes their vacations in the middle of August. So if you go there with dreams or hopes of getting local cuisine, like homemade style meals with freshly made pasta and all of that stuff, you're not going to get it. So
Yeah.
I was personal experience very disappointed to go there when I went there, to Rome especially, to have all these places closed. There's actually I live in Pittsburgh now. I've been here for 15 years almost, and there's a bar in Rome that's a Pittsburgh bar. It's near the Trevi Fountain, actually. And a guy that he spent some time in Toronto, and it was back in the 70s and maybe early 80s, and fell in love with the Pittsburgh Steelers for some reason. And he brought that love of Pittsburgh back. And now that bar is just filled with Pittsburgh memorabilia. And so it was one of the places on my list. And we went there to see the door closed, and
That's
they were on holiday,
that's
just
funny.
like,
You went all the way to Rome
not for
to
that,
see a guy that fancied Pittsburgh.
not for that. We went there for a honeymoon, and so we got to see so many beautiful things. The Trevi
Yeah.
Fountain itself is incredible, and the Colosseum, and there's so many things there that are just incredibly beautiful. Everything's beautiful in Rome.
Yeah.
I mean, just walking
I
down
was
these little streets, and there's little coffee shops, and there's little, the places that have the stone streets with the coffee tables outside, and like that stuff
exactly.
is, you can't replicate that no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
And so it was wonderful. It was amazing, but it was still disappointing in that I didn't know that all the families were on vacation on holiday. So, but that's just my little tidbit, is
Yeah.
don't
You got
go mid-August. So, but
okay.
yeah, we're going to wrap things up. I do want to ask you, if maybe there's nothing, but where are you going? Do you have any plans, whether it's this year or in the near future? Where do you have plans to go? Maybe it's not set in stone.
I think we're gonna at some point go up and see the sequoias again. But one of the things, it's not really taking a traveling trip, but we're going to go down a little bit south of here, several hours, and possibly do a hot air balloon ride, which I have always wanted to do. Because I've been in everything that flies, from helicopters to small planes to big planes. I've never flown in a hot air balloon.
That's awesome.
So I thought that would be a lot of fun, you know.
Is that
Um,
set? Is that a plan?
we're
Like,
we're gonna
when?
we're gonna yeah we're trying to do it for our next anniversary in May. But I
Excellent.
was we thought at first, like, oh, we're gonna have to book this way in advance, because there's not the, and it was like today and tomorrow's booked, but every day from there on out was free and clear. So I was
Excellent.
like, oh, okay. So yeah, that's kind of, as far as like a trip somewhere. I've been trying to get to go out to like Rome or something like that for a long time. And but it's tough because my work schedule is, once I start working, I mean, that's what I do, and then all of a sudden it's just like, and I never have time throughout that. And usually when I'm not working in my slow season, like now, my wife's really busy, so it just never seems to balance out to be able to take a good long trip,
Yeah,
which
it will.
I really, really want to do. And I want it just to be about us, but you also want the money, like the budget to be there. When usually I have, like, I'm making good money is when I'm working, but when I'm working, I can't do anything. So, because I'm
Right.
working. So it's tough.
It'll work out. Is there anything we missed? Is there any just unbelievable story that you just can't leave this podcast without telling it before we go.
Oh, I know one. There's a place in Ohio. I think it's still there. Ohio, yeah.
Ohio is still there.
Ohio is still there, but
Yes.
it was a skydiving place. If anybody gets the chance to go to that skydiving place, the great part about it wasn't your typical skydiving thing. If you do we just did the tethered line.
Can you give us an idea of, because Ohio is it's
Big.
big.
It's around Cleveland.
Okay.
You could see Cleveland from the plane, but it was an interesting story. So what I know of skydiving, or at least at the time what I knew of skydiving, is you went up and you jumped out of like the back of a plane or out of a door of a plane, typically strapped to a person. If you want to jump from really high, you still got to do tandem unless you have classes. We did a class, but we still got to do the like the zip line sort of, or whatever, static line or whatever you call it. Yeah, it's a tethered line. And so it pulls your parachute. Now, you don't free fall for a very long time, but the fun part about this is outside of the door of the plane, it had a little pole that you stepped out onto, and then you held on to the support of the wing that had a piece of, I think it was the shingles for your roof taped to the plane. And or bolted to the plane, and you held on to that, and let your legs dangle, until the guy gave you the thumbs up to let go. And I cannot recommend that experience enough. It was like, I don't know, living the life of a stunt person for a second. It was amazing, as opposed to a lot of people I know do the tandem flying thing where you're jumping out with a guy that knows what he's doing. But it was really cool kind of being alone, but getting to climb out onto that wing was an experience that I've never had that kind of exhilaration before. It was amazing. So, yeah, but I did that when I was 18. I'm 46 now, so it's been a while, but I'm assuming it's probably still there, and it's probably still done the same way. It was epic. Again, you don't really need to go that far to find some unbelievable things.
Man, this honestly was awesome. And if I had a different type of podcast, I'm sure we could just talk about your experiences with shows and movies and just meeting people, and not travel related, but just stories of the industry. And unfortunately, I don't have that type of podcast, but I really enjoyed this time that we spent together. And it's crazy, man, knowing you for all these years. And you were supposed to be the best man at my first wedding, and for some reason you moved to California and you couldn't leave. I knew that you had done some travel, and I knew that you're a talker, but still, like, the stories that you gave us was just awesome. And well, you are with me, I guess. So, but
cool. I hope that's not honestly, a negative thing.
Is there anything that anyone can do to support you? Can we follow you? Like, obviously, you have an IMDb page. Yeah, and you have movies that you've done on your own, which have been in Redbox and like
Netflix and Hulu and HBO and pay-per-view. Yeah.
So how do we find that stuff? How do we find you?
Now it'd just be IMDb. There's some of the one that really went out there was that one that was back in 2012. Now it's considered old, and it's on streaming platforms like Tubi and Pluto and stuff like that. And Pluto is owned by Paramount Pictures, and Tubi's owned probably by Disney. All these places keep buying each other out. Yeah, you would just have to look. If you go on to IMDb, anything that you do, it'll tell you where you can find it. So if anybody's actually just looking for movies that aren't mine, just somebody else's, if you go on to IMDb, you can and look up the movie that you're looking for. It'll show you where it's streaming. And if it's not streaming somewhere, you can see where you can rent it. So, and, other than that, I don't know, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, stuff like that.
Well, just search Derek Cole.
Yeah, Derek Cole. Yeah. Sorry. And I don't know all of my the names on like Little Guy Entertainment on Instagram, but other than that, you can find pretty much anything you need through IMDb.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, buddy.
And
Talk to you later.
Yeah. This has been the second part of episode 2 of the Where Have You Been podcast. I hope you've really enjoyed yourself getting to know some of my friends. We'll have some great guests coming up soon. We've had some great guests so far and just plenty more to come. Please subscribe and like and all that fun stuff. Maybe you can leave a comment if you'd like. And tune in next week as we have another fantastic guest for the Where Have You Been podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for just enjoying this time that we have to spend together. Have a great day.